Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Skyblock News. I'm your host, Derailious, and today we're going to be going over the release candidate for the Torrhus Canyon update, as well as its release date. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe. Use code RAIL on the Hypixel store for 5% off your order, and without any further ado, let's get started. Before going over any of the changes, here is the release date for the Torrhus Canyon update. It is going to be August 4th, 2026, 8 a.m. EDT to 14 o'clock or 2 p.m. EDT. They will be undergoing maintenance to deploy the Torrhus Canyon and Critter Safari. During this time, Skyblock will be unavailable. It will take up to 6 hours, assuming no unforeseen issues occur, so that is the release date. To begin with today, we're going to be going over a change to the price of the 3 Galatea wood types, Fig, Mangrove, and Helix. And as you can see, the prices are a little bit different. Fig is now 8 coins each, Mangrove is 14 coins each, and Helix is 20 coins each, down from 60 on a prior alpha. The reason why is pretty simple. People were hitting rates of 80 mil an hour or more from NPC selling just Helix alone. That didn't include anything else that you would get from the tree gifts. It didn't include any other revenue at all. It was completely ridiculous. They needed to nerf it extremely significantly. However, they have made a few other changes to Helix trees. Now their toughness has been reduced from 200 down to 150, and they've also doubled the respawn rate of these trees, which should make it still a very profitable money-making method, and really solid for both Iron Man players and normal players alike. The team is also willing to change these numbers in the near future, but they are set on them at least for the release of the update. As part of this update, the team has also completely reorganized the Heart of the Forest tree in order to, quote, make certain perks more accessible for newer players. From left to right, the order is, at Heart of the Forest 1, you have the Sweep perk, at Heart of the Forest 2, you have the Damage Boost, the Luck of the Forest, Foraging Fortune, Collector, and then Axe Toss. At Tier 3, you have Deep Waters, Hunter's Luck, and Galatea's Might. At Tier 4, you have Lottery, Foraging Madness, Iron Lungs, 250 Gifts, Daily Wishes, Early Bird, and Precision Cutting. At Tier 5, you have Tree Whisperer, as well as Center of the Forest, and your free trial. At Tier 6, you have Homing Axe, Forest Fisher, Strength Boost, Starland Supreme, Speed Boost, Efficient Forager, and Maniac Slicer. At Tier 7, you have Half Empty, Ricochet, and Half Full. And at Tier 8, you have Monster Hunter, Forest Speed, Essence Fortune, Timber, 2-for-1, Forest Strength, and Beekeeper. And I've got to say, some parts of this I really like, and some parts of this I really don't. For example, Forest Strength as well as Forest Speed should not be all the way up in Tier 8. I'm sorry, they just should not be. Move them down a tier or two at the very least. Frankly, you could probably leave them in Tier 6. I just don't like the idea that such useful perks, fundamentally, which you already have access to on the main server, are going to be locked for all players once this update drops. It doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. I'm going to be real, they can lower those slightly, but for strength, for speed, half empty, half full, maybe you want to move those around a little bit. A change to boosters was made on the Alpha Network, and because of that, as you can see, you have to /reclaim your gear, and that's because you now have common boosters on your gear if you already had them in the past, and that's because boosters are now upgradable. There's a new NPC, Maxim, over here, and he sells a bunch of uncommon boosters for Figstone, Mancores, and Helixis, and you can buy these all up. All of these have the same cost, and as you can see, you can then take your armor that you have reclaimed, you can apply the booster upgrade. As you can see, that gives you a pretty solid upgrade. This is the Foraging Fortune one, brings it from 5 up to 10. And if I put on, for example, the Fighting Booster, the damage increase goes from 2% up to 5%. If I apply the Foraging Wisdom Booster, it goes from 1 up to 2. And you can see if I apply the Sweep Booster, it goes from 2 as a bonus up to 5 as a bonus. Another new NPC, Freddy over here, is able to talk to you about how to hunt pretty much every single mob on the Torrhus Canyon. You can find him just across from where you see the Safari Shill, very close to the entrance of this island. As you can see, costs quite a few coins to figure out how to catch every single one of these critters, but Picking up these hints is part of a task. I believe you only need to pick up one of them, though. You won't need to pick up every single one. But if you're ever struggling and you need to figure out how to catch something, this guy is your man. The team has also made an update to the Daily Wishes perk, and as you can see here, in terms of whispers, it goes from 40k all the way up to 80k desert whispers for the Helix log, which should make the process of getting those whispers just a little bit easier. The team has also revamped the Mangrove Belt into the Moonglade Belt, and as you can see, it gives you +1 sweep, 5 foraging fortune, and grants 5% more points towards Starland contests. But that's not all. There's also now the Torrhus Belt. This is an upgrade to the Moonglade Belt. As you can see, it would take a couple Helixes in order to craft this, as well as a bunch of enchanted Ruby Veil Shroom and 16 Bottled Mischief. Now, these drop from pucks, and on the previous alpha, they were supposed to be a 1 in 1,000 drop. I don't imagine that is still the case anymore. I imagine the chance is much higher to get these, and if I find out, I'll leave that in the comments down below. But as you can see, it's 2 sweep, 10 foraging fortune, and 10% more points towards your Starling contests. This will be a very solid belt for sure, competing with the Safari belt. Now, many of the Ruby Veil Shroom caves all around the Torrhus Canyon have been revamped into these pangolin hideaways. You're no longer able to find any Ruby Veil Shrooms in these. In order to get those, you will need to fish for them, or you can find them in some new caves underneath the Torrhus Springs. And as you can see here, we are at the Torrhus Springs, and if I drop down just a little bit, you can see this little cave in the wall here. And we have a nice frog right here, as well as a bunch of these Ruby Veil Shrooms you can pick up and farm. There are a few small little caves like this all around the top layers of the springs. So you are going to have to come around here if you want to pick them up. Also, I believe in here is, yeah, one of the Fairy Soul locations. I will have a guide for that out by the time of the release of the update. As part of this update, the team has also unsoulbound all sloth claws and frog treats, and they have also increased the sloth pet's base sweep from 15 up to 25. And they've also given the frog pet some base sweep as well. As you can see now, it has 10. The team has also made some changes to the Paragon Shard. This gives you up to a 5% discount on starting Slayer quests. And previously on the old alphas, it was way too rare from Slayers. It was like 9 million XP in order to pick one up. As you can see, that has been changed. Now it has a base 0.25% drop rate from a tier 4 Slayer and a base 0.5% drop rate from a tier 5 Slayer. And as you can see, it's 250k Slayer XP if you want to pick it up directly as an RNG meter drop. I think this is far more reasonable than what existed before. They will definitely be rare, but not overly so. That is solid. On the last alpha, there were issues where the pocket black holes did not change between the small pocket black hole and the medium. That has now been fixed. As you can see, it now gives 2.5 hunting fortune on combat shards caught with this black hole. It goes up to 5 total with the large pocket black hole, as you can see here. They've also made similar changes to the lassos. As you can see, it goes from 2.5 hunting fortune on forest shards caught with this lasso for the entangler, up to 5 for the Everstretch. And if you look up the nets as well, same deal here. 10 on the gigantic one, 5 on the turbo, 2.5 on the medium for water shards, and none on the basic. The team has also made another round of hunting changes. They have moved around a lot of shard families, changed certain types, and also changed around certain shard IDs with the goal of getting this update into a finalized state. Some of this stuff makes a lot of sense, moving like Voracious Spider, for example, into the Spider family, Drowned into the Drowned family, so on and so forth. You get the idea here. The team has also made another round of Bestiary changes, getting a lot of the mobs that they did not get last time, like the dragons, mythological mobs, and several catacombs mobs. And here are those adjustments. As you can see, wolves went from 10k down to 3k, spider jockeys from 3k down to 1k, dragons from 1000 down to 250, and a bunch of mythological ritual changes, as we mentioned. The problem here is, though, the Daedalus Blade is now a little bit weaker and has less overall magic find because the amount of Bestiary tiers has been changed. Would love to see this rectified. I think the solution here is just keeping the numbers the same for the new tiers, just making more tiers exist. I know that's kind of a band-aid solution, but that's the best thing I could think of. You could also apply some more base stats or more scaling to the tier system for the Daedalus Blade, but aside from that, though, all of these number changes are super solid, and things should be much better on the Bestiary front. For the last round of changes, we have Critter Safari changes, and that's right, the Safari Zone has been renamed to the Critter Safari, thank the Lord. This was just the type of thing where there didn't need to be the exact name from Pokemon for this location. It just kind of took you out of the immersion of the game, and I know that's not something that matters to a lot of people, but to a few people it does, and I'm glad they decided to change it. They've also increased the spawn rate of sparkling critters from 1 in 8192 up to 1 in 4096, so you should have even better odds with the amulet. That should make it a lot easier to max out and get your sparkling critters. Hunter Leonard can no longer appear until you've completed the critter dex, and they've increased the Morning Dew's Majestic bonus from 25 to 50 speed while in the Critter Safari. The Doom Spiral's difficulty now scales with the amount of players, which is pretty nice. They've adjusted the Forest Biome milestones to now grant Foraging Fortune instead of Sweep. I think this is reasonable. They've also added the option to salvage your Safari shards for Safari Essence at Hunter Archie in the Torrhus Canyon. The team has also improved the textures of all these sparkling critters, and they've increased Safari Essence gain from Safari critters. Common have gone from 1 to 2, Uncommon from 2 to 4, Rare from 4 to 8, Epic from 8 to 16, and Legendary have gone from 16 to 32. Sparkling critters are now 100 times more likely to drop the Emerald Die, which is very funny, and we'll go over this in a minute. But yes, Emerald Die has been changed. The team has also adjusted the Critter Safari ticket trade-ins. One economy is 1 basic Safari ticket and 250 Essence for the Forest. One premium ticket is 1 economy ticket and 500 Forest Essence. And one first class is 1 premium and 1,000 Forest Essence. They've also added the ability to salvage attribute shards obtained from the Critter Safari at Archie for Safari Essence. So that is something you'll be able to get repeatably, even if you've maxed out all the shards. We're now here in the garden for a strange reason. There are a bunch of farming shadow nerfs on this alpha, and I cannot tell you why. As you can see, for example, Pest Hunter Philip now takes 80 pests, and the reason why it's 60 minutes here is not because they've just decided, oh, instead of, 40 for 30 minutes, it's 80 for 60. This is because of Finnegan's perk. I don't know why they've done this. I don't know why they've made quite a few different nerfs. For example, if you look at the enchantment guide, you're able to look up harvesting. You're actually able to see that they have nerfed this as well. As you can see, it's now down to 30 farming fortune. These are a bunch of farming related nerfs. I don't even know the full extent of these. They need to just revert these. People have not given their feedback on this. The team has not put them in the form of patch notes. I don't think they're intended to be part of these updates. Get them off. Remove them from the alpha. Do not release them. Don't taint an otherwise very good update with a bunch of shadow nerfs that frankly should not be here. If the team wants to do anything like this in the future, release it on alpha, take the critique, and post all the patch notes, please. Something else I wanted to bring up here, if you go to the first island of Galatea, the Moonglade Marsh, and you try to break one of these trees with the Tree Protection Order, it talks to you about how the Tree Protection Agency has fined you, and you need to talk to Honey in the Torrhus Canyon to learn more. I think this could be really jarring for new players who just come to this island and get hit with a fine that they don't really understand and won't understand until they go to a different island. At the very least, add an NPC to the first island of Galatea, maybe even right here, who explains, similar to Tree Hugger Timothy or whatever, how the system related to the tree protection orders work. I think that would be really, really solid, a small thing they could do to reduce confusion. My last complaint of the day is that hunting XP in the Critter Safari is still not very good. You get like 30 to 35,000 per full expedition. It's just not very significant for the amount you need now that hunting goes all the way to 50. I get the concept, you want the skill to be a little bit more difficult to max, except it isn't really because you get a lot more XP from just fusing together shards. So maybe the team should look into those hunting XP rates and try to tune them a little bit better. Regardless, though, I think the overall update here is very solid and is in a much better state now than it was during the first alpha. The team just needs to remove those farming changes which have no business being on this alpha, and aside from that, I think things are in a very solid state with relatively few bugs, which I'm pretty impressed with. Oh yeah, one more thing. When we go over to the chocolate shop, the team had originally added a bunch of new rabbits here that you can pick up that are frankly probably a little bit too expensive. As you can see, these shards still exist, and I think they should probably be changed around and at least nerfed in terms of price a little bit. For example, the neighbor shard does not need to be 10 billion chocolate each. That is just quite a bit, I've got to say. They did seemingly remove the attribute shard or the shard related to divine rabbits, which I suppose is a good thing, but this whole menu and whole system does need a little bit of a look over, I've got to say. Wrapping up here, aside from the farming changes and a few smaller things that need to be fixed, the update is in a much better state now than it was the first time around. Would love to hear what you think about it down below. Leave all of your thoughts there, and look to the future, fellas. I'll see you then.